Queen was head of state, in the Commonwealth and across the world, a deep sense of gratitude for the more than 70 years in which my mother, as Queen, served the people of so many nations. In 1947, on her 21st birthday, she pledged in a broadcast from Cape Town to the Commonwealth to devote her life, whether it be short or long, to the service of her peoples. That was more than a promise. It was a profound personal commitment which defined her whole life. She made sacrifices for duty. Her dedication and devotion as sovereign never wavered through times of change
and we're going to have a look at some of those. The first by-election of this parliament, and it's a win for Reform, a party that barely scratched the surface in the general election in this seat, now taking the seat by a majority of 6, the slimmest of margins. Let's go straight over here to look at what changed in order to give Reform that advantage. You can see the Reform vote going up 20 percentage points. Labour, really the biggest victim today. They're down 14%. The Conservatives down 8 as well. This, and we're going to see a lot of this pattern over the next 24 hours, I think, is really the story of the election. Labour down, in fact, more than the Tories at the hands of Reform, and I think that's a big deal.
Nigel Farage's Reform UK turned the 2025 local elections on their head, and the government didn't take it lightly. Instead of reflection or reform, Prime Minister Keir Starmer doubled down with aggressive measures that sent shockwaves across the country. Farmers were dragged into legal battles, protesters were silenced, and even regular citizens found themselves under scrutiny for speaking out. What was meant to restore control has only fueled outrage, leaving many wondering if Britain is still playing by the rules of a true democracy, or slipping into something far darker.
I'm outside the Runcorn and Helsby by-election count hall, where we just saw Sarah Pochin win a historic victory over Labour's Karen Shaw. It's been held by Labour for more than 40 years, and she overturned a majority of 15,000 votes.
The people of Runcorn and Helsby have spoken. Enough is enough. Enough Tory failure, enough Labour lies.
Inside Buckingham Palace, tempers are boiling over. Insiders say King Charles was furious upon learning that peaceful demonstrators, including farmers and everyday citizens, were being forcibly removed from town halls and rallies, often for nothing more than expressing dissent. What sparked the backlash? A controversial new inheritance tax on agricultural land, seen by many as a final blow to generational family farms. For rural Britain, it felt like betrayal. In response, farmers took to the roads with tractor blockades, shut down local markets, and turned their fields into flashpoints of resistance. The message was clear: we won't go quietly. But rather than open a dialogue, Keir Starmer sent in the police. Over 300 arrests followed, many detained without charges. Images of elderly farmers, young workers, and parents in cuffs began circulating online, fueling a nationwide uproar. The unrest is no longer isolated to the countryside, it's spreading, and fast. And it's not just the farming communities that are under pressure anymore.
Extraordinary, because it's a first past the post system, winning one candidate by only 6 votes out of some 20,000. Extraordinary stuff, Myron. Tell us, how's it feeling like to be in Britain to have a proper Conservative Party back again?
Yeah, well, this is an amazing time because, yes, these were just local elections, but in reality, these elections have ushered in a whole new political landscape that probably only happens once in a century, because the first past the post system, as you mentioned, has been well and truly broken. When Nigel came back in July last year during the general election, he said he would just make a bridgehead into Parliament. So the first crack of that first past the post system, which locks in Labour and the Conservatives, was made in July. And then as he progressed and during making arenas, filling up arenas with thousands of people and campaigning across the country, the accusation was Reform is just a protest party. It's something that is celebratory, yes, but full of razzmatazz, but nothing really of substance. So the real test came in his local elections, where the polling had to translate into actual votes. And that is what has happened. And it's been an absolute bloodbath for the opposition parties. Reform got 670 odd councillors elected. 10 local councils come under their control, plus this by-election, a parliamentary by-election, as you said, won by 6 votes, which was previously lost by 15,000 votes.
Wow.
And now just
Behind the gates of Buckingham Palace, the tension is no longer behind closed doors. Royal insiders say King Charles was outraged after seeing footage of peaceful demonstrators, farmers, veterans and concerned citizens being dragged away by police simply for challenging government policies. The spark? A brutal new inheritance tax targeting farmland. For many families, it meant losing properties that had been passed down for generations. Faced with financial collapse, Britain's farmers pushed back. Tractors blocked roads, marketplaces shut down, and fields turned into rallying grounds. But instead of listening, Keir Starmer sent in the police. Over 300 arrests followed, many with no formal charges. Online, images of elderly farmers and teenage protesters in cuffs lit a fire under the public. What started as rural outrage quickly spread nationwide. And it didn't stop at the countryside.
We've set out the roadmap for farming, which has been welcomed by farmers. And many thousands of farms have benefited from the farming schemes. But she talks about prices. Wages are going up higher than prices. That's the first in a long time that's happened.
Ordinary voters across the UK who dared to question Labour MPs about tax hikes, benefit cuts and ballooning energy bills were tossed from meetings and detained under sweeping new security powers. What kind of leadership arrests people for asking questions? A government that has no answers left, sources now, claim the King's patience has snapped. In a tense private meeting, he reportedly slammed his hand on the table after witnessing a disabled veteran being manhandled at a protest in Yorkshire. This isn't the country my mother left behind, he allegedly told senior advisors. This is something darker. Soon after, Charles placed a call to Prime Minister Starmer, warning that both the nation and the monarchy were running out of patience. When even the Crown is moved to act, you know the crisis is real.
Farming is a family affair for Steve Ridsdale. He lives on this 260-acre farm in East Yorkshire with his wife and son. It's owned by his 81-year-old father, Terry. When he passes the farm on, the changes to agricultural relief means that Steve will face an inheritance tax bill of up to £600,000.
I've got 10 years to pay that tax, but if the farm doesn't make enough margin to pay the tax, so we would have to sell. I'm not sleeping. I feel like I've worked all my life and everything I've ever earned is going to have to go on tax because of my dad's age and because we're unlikely to be able to get life insurance for him. And if we can get life insurance, the premium will be horrendous.
The farm's been in the family for generations, but now owner Terry Ridsdale fears for its future.
We came here in 1960 and it's been our lifetime looking after stock, our own cattle and now these bed and breakfast ones. And working the land. It could all go now with this new budget. It's a nice life, really, that's working outside all the time. But will the younger generation want to continue? My grandchildren? Doubtful.
Along with working on the farm, Steve's the chair of the British Farming Union. He says farmers will take action if the government doesn't rethink changes to inheritance tax.
Some of them are saying, well, we're going to have to push back at this and we're not going to cooperate. And they're starting to say, well, are we going to take the sewage sludge? Something like 85% of all the sewage solids go back to farmland. So farmers are saying, well, if you're not going to help us, we're not going to help you. And I can see that...
Still, Starmer hasn't blinked. He's doubling down, tightening protest laws, expanding digital surveillance, and floating new restrictions on political expression. Critics aren't buying the justification. They say it's not about protecting the public. It's about silencing Reform UK, the political earthquake that's shaking Westminster to its core. But Starmer may be misreading the room. This isn't 1997. The public isn't naive, and they're done being obedient. Reform UK has awakened millions. People are seeing through the empty gestures of a political system that punishes anyone who challenges its authority. Reform's sweep across 10 local councils wasn't a glitch in the matrix. It was a warning shot. Nowhere was the shift more dramatic than in Runcorn and Helsby, where voters rejected both Labour and the Tories outright. The message was unmistakable. It's time for something new. Labour's response? They exposed their true colours. The same party that once stood for workers is now overseeing their arrests. The same government that pledged to protect the vulnerable is slashing support and raising taxes on those already struggling. And the energy crisis, a self-inflicted wound. Labour's climate agenda has throttled domestic fuel production, sent energy bills soaring, and pushed industries to the brink. Families across the UK are bracing for a punishing winter, while the government insists everything is under control. Those who protest are labelled extremists. Farmers defending their land are treated like criminals. Critics are branded as far-right agitators. It's a tired tactic, and the public sees right through it. Each arrest, each restriction, each overreach is peeling back the mask and revealing just how shaky Starmer's grip really is. Meanwhile, Nigel Farage isn't waiting on the sidelines. He's charging forward. In a blistering speech outside Parliament, Farage denounced the treatment of protesters and vowed to dismantle what he called Labour's authoritarian machine. His message was simple: give power back to the people. And it's working. So Just for Reform UK is exploding from farming hamlets to industrial towns. What began as political disruption is becoming a full-blown movement. This isn't about left versus right anymore. It's about survival versus the status quo. And behind the scenes, King Charles may be preparing to act. While his power is mostly symbolic, even a single rebuke from the monarchy would send shockwaves through Westminster and put Starmer on notice. No government survives by turning its people into enemies. You can't jail farmers, silence pensioners and target protesters, then demand their loyalty. Starmer thought winning an election meant ruling without limit. Instead, he is under constant scrutiny, and every misstep is magnified by a furious public that refuses to back down. The revolt has begun. The silence that once kept Britain in check is gone. Now, even the monarch is drawing a line. The only question is, how long until Starmer crosses it? And what will Britain look like once he does? In Lincolnshire, Andrea Jenkyns didn't waste her moment. During her victory speech, she lit up the stage, accusing her opponents of dirty tricks and personal smears. She claimed the Conservatives had leaned on police to disrupt her campaign, while rivals tried to derail her with whispered attacks about her private life. A nun rival even mocked her for not being local. A dig Jenkyns turned on its head by pointing out the irony of being questioned by someone with a South African accent. Jenkyns, once a hardline Conservative, made her new allegiance crystal clear. She blasted Labour's immigration policies, condoning the use of public money to house migrants in hotels. Instead, she proposed a tougher approach: temporary camps modelled after France's system. Now she holds the reins of a £24 million sterling 0 pence budget, with real power over transport, training and development in a region of 4 million people. Her victory speech was so incendiary, other candidates reportedly left the stage, leaving her alone at the mic, unapologetically bold. Elsewhere, in Doncaster, Ross Jones narrowly held onto her mayoral seat by fewer than 700 votes. But her message to Labour was just as sharp. She tore into party leadership over heating allowance cuts, rising national insurance costs, and vanishing welfare programmes, warning that these policies were strangling working people. Jones said she had already reallocated local funds to prevent families from freezing this winter, but her tone was blunt. If Labour keeps ignoring its own base, it won't survive the next wave of backlash. This wasn't just a win, it was a final warning. And then came the shocker in the West of England mayoral race. Labour held on, but just barely. The Greens were expected to come second. Instead, Reform UK surged past them, nearly snatching the win. Representing Reform was Aaron Banks, the controversial Brexit funder. He came within striking distance of Labour's Helen Godwin, pulling in over 45,000 votes. That kind of momentum in a left-leaning region sent shockwaves through Westminster. Reform UK wasn't just growing, it was replacing the old opposition. In Lincolnshire, Jenkins called the results a launch pad. She's already laying the groundwork for a nationwide push in the next general election. Her promise? Tear down the bloated bureaucracy, scrap inefficient spending, and build a smarter, leaner government that actually listens. She even joked about creating a Doge government, a cheeky tech reference that masked a serious goal: total system overhaul. Labour's climate agenda? She called it madness. Jenkins rallied against the net zero targets, blaming them for strangling local industry and punishing everyday families with soaring bills. Her message landed. Lincolnshire wasn't just electing a mayor, it was rejecting a broken system. Nationwide, the pattern is impossible to ignore. What began with angry farmers has spread to shopkeepers, builders, nurses, and pensioners. This isn't just discontent, it's a rebellion. Reform UK isn't a side act anymore, it's the main event, and Starmer's crackdown is only accelerating the movement. Meanwhile, whispers from the palace grow louder. King Charles is said to be quietly reviewing his constitutional options. Even if symbolic, a royal rebuke would shake Westminster to its core. Because fear doesn't build a nation, it breaks it. And you can't lead by crushing dissent. Every government that forgets this truth eventually falls. The hourglass is running out, and the silence is over. If you found this breakdown helpful, be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into Britain's shifting political landscape.